Baie dankie, voorsitter, vir die baie belangrike geleentheid wat ons vandaag hier kry to come and address this Regional General Council. I'm certain, comrades, you've already noted that we've got a number of PEC members here amongst us. We've got the Deputy Provincial Chair, Comrade Bentley, who's also part and parcel of the PEC team to grace this Regional General Council. We also have our Provincial Secretary as well, Comrade Deshi. We also have PEC members who are deployees to Namakwa. Comrade Elroy Pete. You're a deployee to Namakwa? Yes. Is Ken left for Elroy Pete? Je moet opstaan, meneer, man. Laat de camera niet meer gaan zien. Ja, Elroy Pete is one of our PEC members. Got elected for the first time in the PEC when we had the provincial conference here. Very hard-working, smart PEC member. Always prepared to sacrifice to do work for the organization. And we also have Comrade Kenny Muima, one of our veteran PEC members. At Pransa Medomek, se ospud nodima na di National Aid Front Committee to fund. Fund Angela Camarada. Very experienced, served as the regional chair of John Taulokaitsuwe for a very long time. Became the deputy provincial chair of the ANC. And one of our ideologues in the PEC, a deep thinker. And he's also here amongst us, and I'm certain he will play a very critical role in our discussions of the different discussion documents. He will today play a very critical role in those engagements. And we've got Comrade Nurin as well. He's one of our PEC members. Again from Springbok, and the Speaker of the Provincial Legislature. En ANC kan wonderlijke werken doen. I can still remember years back when I was a provincial secretary, Nurin het hier gestruikeld met de administratieve post daar bij de municipaliteit. And now she's a speaker with a driver and bodyguards and all that. So that is ja, met de administratieve post daar in de municipaliteit het hy gesakkel en gesakkel. Dan is het uitgehaal en weer teruggebring en al die type goede. And now she's the Speaker of the Provincial Legislature running a budget of millions and millions of rands. So that's a wonderwerke wat die ANC kan doen. And we also have the leadership of the Youth League, led by Comrade Vic Dolopi. Where's the other Youth League leaders? They are there. Kan jullie opstaan, man? Jullie mochten gekies. Laat die mensen daarop jullie kan zien, man. Waar je aan de bombas. Yeah. So we've got the leadership of the Youth League here as well. And I think there's a good representation. I'm told almost all our branches of the ANC are here. All our branches of the ANC are here. Let me also greet our branch delegates that are here. Comrades, this is a regional general council to prepare ourselves for the national policy conference. This is a build-up work towards the national policy conference. We van at the policy conference by gewoon al in die verlede jaren. Who attended a policy conference in the past? Oh, hier staan er een paar van die kameraden wat het aangegeven. So we are preparing for the National Policy Conference. And the National Policy Conference will take place within a month or a month and a half from now. And the reason why we've got the National Policy Conference is because we want to do some engagements as a build-up towards the National Conference. The National Policy Conference does not take decisions, it only makes recommendations to the National Conference. So that's the reason why right throughout the country, we are having regional policy conferences which will serve as a build-up towards the National Policy Conference. And last year, when you had your regional conference, we said that this year will be a very busy year. En ek is seker julle kan almal sien dit is 'n besige jaar. Week in, week uit. Daar's 'n konferensie van die ANC wat plaasvind. There's regional conferences which are taking place right throughout the country, and there's also provincial conferences which are taking place. We are just coming from the Provincial Conference of Gauteng. KwaZulu-Natal are preparing themselves for their provincial conference, Western Cape and the Northwest. And all these conferences, provincial conferences, are taking place as part and parcel of our build-up work towards the National Conference. So this is a very busy year. And we've saved ourselves trouble by having our conference last year. We saved ourselves very big trouble because everybody now is focusing on ANC regional and provincial conferences, and we had all our regional conferences except for JTG last year, and we had our provincial conference last year. But with all those conferences that took place in the ANC, something that we should mention about happened. In the regional conference of Namakwa, this regional leadership was elected unopposed. In the regional conference of Pixley, regional leadership was elected unopposed. In Francisbar, the regional leadership was elected unopposed. And in ZFM, regional leadership was elected unopposed. And this year, we had a regional conference in JTG, John Taulogaitsiwe region. Regional leadership was elected unopposed, which means in all 5 regions, regional leaders were elected unopposed. All 5 regions. When we went to the provincial conference, the provincial leadership of the ANC was elected unopposed. I don't know how many of you know about it, but that has never happened in the history of the ANC in the Northern Cape. It happened for the first time last year. And it's a very clear indication of the kind of unity that we have in the province. And every time I get an opportunity to speak with the regional leaders, I always implore them that we should not take this unity for granted. We should work very hard. We should double our efforts to ensure that we concretize and solidify this unity which is there in the province. To have all 5 RECs elected unopposed, to have the PEC as well elected unopposed, is something extraordinary. That has never happened in the province. It happened for the first time with this leadership. We need to celebrate that, we need to be proud about it, but we need to ensure that we consolidate that unity in the movement. We need this unity. We need this unity as we build up towards 2024 general elections. Everybody now, all political analysts, They say in 2024 the ANC will be dislodged out of power. But with the kind of unity that we have in the Northern Cape, it's quite clear that we can build a formidable base which we can use as we move towards 2024 general elections. So we must protect this unity, jealously guard and protect it. That's what we must do, all of us. And in protecting that unity, we should be activists in protecting it. So this unity that we managed to build during our regional conferences and the provincial conferences penetrated into the ANC Youth League. ANC Youth League held regional conferences, more or less the same as the ANC, all those regional conferences. There were no tense contestation for power. They went to a provincial conference, we were there. There was no contestation of leadership. Leadership was elected unopposed. Leadership in the ANC Youth League Provincial Conference was elected unopposed. The unity which is there in the ANC penetrated right into the ANC Youth League. So now we've got our youth league with proper structures, proper RECs, proper branches, and proper provincial executive committee. And that is very much important for us as the province, because 65% of our population is young people. And we need a dynamic, vibrant, strong ANC Youth League in the Northern Cape. So this time around, when we go to elections in 2024, we'll go to these elections in 2024 with a very strong ANC Youth League in the Northern Cape. And as the ANC, we must ensure that we do everything within our powers to strengthen the leadership of the Youth League. We want a dynamic Youth League, a Youth League of young people that's vibrant, that's challenging, that irritates us for the interest of young people in the Northern Cape. We had an opportunity to meet with the leadership of the Youth League. I think it's almost a month and a half back, Secretary. We met with them, we had engagements with them, and as this PEC collective, we've got full confidence in the leadership of the Youth League that was elected. We firmly believe that this is the right team that will take this province forward. We've got full confidence in them. And in our engagements with them, they raised something which is very critical. They said, you've been promising us a youth directorate. We don't want a youth directorate. We want a youth ministry. We want an MEC that will be responsible for youth development and empowerment. And we made a commitment as these officials that we are going to give them that. So the Youth League must be focused. If the Youth League is focused, they can better mobilize young people behind the banner of the African National Congress. So even the regions must give regional structures of the Youth League the necessary support. Our branches must do the same. We made a commitment, comrades, in our last PEC that we must ensure that the ANC Women's League starts in earnest with their work to build their structures. From the branch to the region and to the province. The ANC in the country were the first to go to the provincial conference, isn't it? We were the first ANC, we were the first to go to the provincial conference in the country. The Youth League in the Northern Cape was the first to go to the provincial conference in the country. And the Women's League should be the first to go to the provincial conference in the country. And all of us must work hard to achieve that. If we can achieve that, then we would have broken the record. And that would give credence to what we always speak about, that is unity within our ranks. In the last NWC report, which was presented to the NEC, to the National Executive Committee, the report reads, for now, the ANC in the Northern Cape is the most united province in the country. That's what the report reads. In actual fact, what the NWC says to the NEC is that we are the most united province of the ANC in the country. We must keep that unity intact. We must protect that unity with everything that we have. But there are those who can't sleep because we are a united province. There are those who are very much unhappy about that, who will continue working against unity of the ANC in the Northern Cape. That means that when there's unity within our ranks, they don't like to see us as a united organization. They don't want to see a semblance of unity within our ranks. And as hulle begin siek raak, dan begin hulle goed te doen just to try to sow in seeds of disunity within our ranks. There are people who does that. Soon as there's a semblance of unity, they start working against unity. Because unity within our ranks makes it difficult for them to gain the prominence that they want. So we need to close ranks and expose those individuals and protect our organization. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. Those who don't want to see us united, let's close ranks and expose them. And particularly in 2022, which is a very important year for the African National Congress, as we are putting up or build up programs towards the National Conference. So the unity, comrades, in the Northern Cape is our only asset in possession as the African National Congress. The only asset that we have, something that makes us look good, something that makes us shine in the Northern Cape, is the unity within the ranks of the African National Congress. And that unity, we must protect it with everything that we have. But this unity that we have is organic unity, it's not fake unity. It's organic unity. It's unity which is as a result of us observing the discipline of the organization. It's unity which is a product of us respecting the ANC Constitution and its injunctions. It's unity which is as a result of us adhering to the traditions and values of the movement. It's not unity of convenience. It's not unity which is the product of political expediency, of protecting each other for wrong things. It's organic unity, which is unity which is as a result of us observing the discipline of the organization. And that's what all of us must do in order to sustain this unity. If it's fake unity, it will evaporate soon. If it's fake, it will evaporate soon. Have you ever been in a fake relationship? A fake relationship does not have roots, isn't it? Yes, but organic unity has got roots. Organic unity has got roots. It can bear fruits because it's organic. It's because of us observing the discipline of the organization. So we have to protect this unity. This is our costly possession that we have as a small province. Ons as hier speel ding nie. Jy kan sien mense speel sommer ver van die Noord-Kaap af. Hulle doen hulle so goed te ver van ons af. Because of the kind of unity that we have. But if we are not united, we are disunited. There's serious divisions within our ranks Ons sal 'n speelplek raak. Ons sal 'n speelplek raak. So we are not ons is 'n speelplek because of the kind of unity that we are building within our ranks. Ek het vir Dominee Swartboy gehoor met 'n baie mooi boodskap. And one of the issues that you said is the attacks which are there now against the president. And there's only one reason why the president is subjected to such severe attacks. It's a pushback against the Zondo Commission report. That's the only reason why he's being attacked. If the president said he does not support the Zondo Commission report, there would not have been attacks. And these attacks are because he supports the Zondo Commission report. And he gave the NPA an extra amount of money for them to strengthen their capacity to investigate things that are coming out of the Zondo Commission report. And if he did not take a stand against corruption, and say we are going to hunt down those who siphon public purse, he would not have been attacked. He's attacked for what he stands for. And I think all of us, we must be prepared to be attacked for what we stand for. We must be prepared for that. To be attacked for what we stand for and to be attacked for what we believe in. So these attacks are there, and our responsibility as ANC members who believe that those who are involved in state capture must face the wrath of the law, and those who continue to steal from the public purse must be held accountable for that. We must protect him because he's the last buffer in our battle against corruption. So that should be our attitude, and ensure that many others will still be attacked like that. But we'll have to ensure that we protect them. We go out there, support the cause, and as well as we protect them. So, comrades, as I have already mentioned, this is a very, very busy year for the African National Congress. Within 3-4 months now, we'll be going to the 55th National Conference. Within 3-4 months. Soon we'll start with your BGMs, nomination BGMs, for members of the National Executive Committee. So the National Conference of the ANC has got 2 legs. The first leg is policy formulation, and the second leg is election of leaders. So with the policy conference and this RGC, we are feeding into the process of policy formulation. And then the second leg is the election of leadership, where we'll have to convene nomination BGMs. But in preparing ourselves for these difficult tasks, I always try to give context when we've got these regional general councils by highlighting to comrades what an organization is. Any organization, the African National Congress is an organization, isn't it? We're an organization. We're a political organization. Tot 'n kerk is 'n organisasie. We are an organization. And all organizations have got 4 organizational properties. All organizations, at least, they've got 4 organizational properties. Dat die kameraden nou net die 4 organizational properties neerskryf. We know all of them, but sometimes we like to take them for granted. The first organizational property is membership. The first organizational property which is there for any organization is membership. Because without members, there is no organization. So your starting point is, if you put up an organization, you must have members. And if you read the constitution of the ANC, write the first rules of the constitution. They tell you what are the rights and responsibilities of each and every member of the ANC, how to join, and the oath that members must take. Even us who are elected into leadership position, we've got a tendency of forgetting that we are members because we are called leaders. And when we speak of members as if that does not include us. That's what we tend to do. We speak of members as if it does not include us. But we are members. If I'm not a member of the ANC, I would not have been the chairperson. That's where it first starts. Where it first starts, you must join. Cyril Ramaphosa must first be a member in order to be the president. So there will be serious discussions around issues of membership. And particularly if you look into the document of organizational renewal. What kind of members do we want in the movement? What programs should we embark on to improve the quality of our members? So one of the primary focus on our discussion document on organizational renewal is membership. For now, the ANC has got about 1.4 million members, of which about 720,000 are members in good standing. 1.4 or 720 million, 720,000 are members in good standing. 720,000, half of our 1.4 million members, their membership have expired. And the only time they will renew their membership is when we go to a conference. I hope comrades will understand this problem now, where people only renew their members when you go to conference. And after conference, they allow their membership to lapse. Which means for many, membership is about conferences and election of leaders. And as leaders, we also accept that. When we go to conference, we start embarking on programs to renew membership. So now it has been accepted that you must renew your membership for the purposes of conference. So we'll have to change that trajectory and ensure that we've got members that are committed to the programs of the movement, active members on the ground that are doing the work that is required of them, members who are agents of change in their communities. So that's one organizational property that we are going to focus on in our discussions as we move towards the national conference. The second organizational property, which is very much important, it's our policies. That's the second organizational property. And our policies, they start with the basic policy of the movement. What is the basic policy? It's the Constitution. The basic policy of the organization is the Constitution. And you've got conference resolutions, which are also policy decisions. So you've got the Constitution, you've got our strategy and tactics, you've got conference resolutions and all of that. All of that constitutes the policies of the movement. So what is required of each and every member of the movement is to spend time to acquaint yourself with these policies. You must take spandier to acquaint yourself with the Constitution. Grondwet van die ANC. What said the Grondwet? It should not be that we only go to the Constitution when we fight. That's what normally happens. When we disagree on something, we must go to the Constitution. What is the Constitution saying? But we need to study the Constitution and know what is required of us as members. We need to spend time to go through our documents on socio-economic transformation, on social transformation. We need to study our documents on international relations, because those are policies. Every time when the NEC sits and it takes decisions, those decisions of the NEC is policy. So we need to know all of that, because our policies, it's one of the properties of the movement. Without policies, you can have membership, that membership sal neer mekaar is, ek weet nie soos wat nie. So we've got these policies, which is an organizational property that we need to look into, take seriously, and our basic policy is the constitution of the ANC that says these organizations will hereby be called the African National Congress. Who will be the members, what's our values, what's our objectives, and all of that. So as part and parcel of our preparations for the policy conference, we are going to focus on our policies. What are we saying on economic transformation? What are we saying on social transformation? What are we saying about this constitution? Is our constitution fit for purpose in order to take the ANC through the struggles and the changing environment during the 21st century? So those are the issues that we'll have to look into. And the third organizational property is structures. Also structure. Most of organizations have got structures. And we know the process of establishment of structures in the movement is when we go to conferences and we elect an REC, or we go to a BBG and we elect a BEC. We go to a provincial conference, we elect a PEC. And we'll be going to a national conference now in December to elect the National Executive Committee. And with this work that we are doing, as a build-up towards the national conference and the policy conference now in a month or a month and a half, we should be asking ourselves the question, are our structures fit for purpose? Do these structures have adequate powers to enable them to execute the necessary and required tasks to build the organization? So we'll ask the difficult question about an REC. Do our RECs have powers? Do our PECs have powers, required powers for them to execute a task as a PEC? Do we still need an NEC with 80 members, or do we need to increase those members to 100, or do we have to reduce them to 60 or 40? So that's the work of the policy conference, which will make recommendations to the national conference. The relationship between the ANC and its leagues. What is it that we should do to strengthen this relationship? The way in which our leagues are constituted. Is it assisting us in building this broad front for social transformation? So those are the questions that we'll have to ask ourselves around our structures. Whether the way in which our structures, there's already discussions which are taking place around the composition of our structures. I heard one of the provinces making a recommendation that we must at least have 2 deputy secretary generals. So those are issues that we have to discuss and try to make sense out of them. So that's the third organizational property which is there, that as a policy conference and as an RGC in preparation for the National Policy Conference, we'll have to engage with. And the fourth organizational property is our traditions and values, which is very much important. Also traditions and our values. The movement is a value-based organization. And these traditions and values dictate the way in which we work. In the 1950s, the ANC adopted 2 traditions. Democratic centralism, isn't it? And collective leadership. Democratic centralism simply means if the senior structure takes a decision, that decision binds on all lower structures. It's like if the PEC takes a decision, that decision binds on all lower structures, all junior structures. If the NEC takes a decision, that decision binds on all structures. And that is articulated by a tradition, which is democratic centralism. It's not in the Constitution. You can take the ANC Constitution from Rule 1 up to the last rule. There's nowhere where it speaks of democratic centralism, but it's a tradition that has been adopted over the years. And you've got a tradition of collective leadership. That when the structure takes a decision, that decision binds on each and every one of the members who serves in that structure, even if they've articulated a different position during the discussions. So that's collective leadership. And both democratic centralism and collective leadership are pillars to build unity and internal party cohesion. So as we engage with our processes towards the policy conference, we should ask ourselves on the relevance of these traditions. Whether do we still need democratic centralism, or we need semi-autonomous structures for much greater efficiency in the way in which the organization works? Do we still need the principle of collective leadership, like what is basically happening in most of your European countries, where members of parliament in the main become free riders because they are appointed by constituencies and they are allowed to vote against the party position. So those are all critical issues that we'll have to engage with. And there's a whole lot of values that have shaped our texture as an organization, that have shaped our outlook. It's a value of hard work. It's a value of hard work. It's expected of ANC members to be hard workers. That's what is expected. Each and every one of us to be a hard worker. That is the minimum expectation. Those are the values that we've inherited over the years. Values of selflessness. Values that we've inherited over the years. We need to reflect on these values and what do they mean in today's African National Congress. What does this value of selflessness mean? The value of serving without expecting anything in return. What does it mean? You get confronted by a branch secretary who will tell you that, hey, I'm a branch secretary and I just got elected. No, as a branch secretary, I can't be unemployed. So to contest to be the branch secretary is linked towards prospects of employment, which means that's not selfless, isn't it? Yes, that's not selfless. If you just get elected today as the branch chair, the following day you put up war against the ward council. The ward councillor must resign. Now you are the branch chairperson. You must become the ward councillor. They would know a ratsledrak. And all these kinds of behaviors, which are very typical nowadays. What are these behaviors telling us about the value of selflessness? Serving without expectation of personal gain and personal gratification. Or what does that mean? So these are things that we should honestly engage with. Because most of our branch secretaries, they know as soon as you get elected as the branch secretary, there's greater prospects that will be there's municipality. There's greater prospects for that. There's greater prospects that will be number one in the deployment queue. Which means to be elected as a branch secretary nowadays some kind of a qualification. As a soort van 'n kwalifikasie wat jou sommer onmiddellik werksgeleentheid gee. So what does this mean? And this behavior is typical. What does it mean in terms of the value of selflessness? And what kind of attitude does it create in our communities? So we'll have to look into these things. I said one of the values is hard work. We've got leadership of the movement over the years, 110 years of its existence, who know the value of hard work, who toil and toil and toil, working very hard for the organization. The other value is honesty. It's honesty, what we call as revolutionary morality, which is our attitude towards public money. That's what revolutionary morality is all about. What's our attitude towards public money? If you're a mayor of a municipality, you've got a budget of 500 million rand. What's your attitude towards that budget? If when you look at that budget, and you look at the projects that will be executed, you see an opportunity on health, then that's something else. That's not what the ANC stands for. That's not what the ANC stands for. So we have to make a serious reflection on the issues of revolutionary morality. I raised it yesterday, telling comrades that most of us were occupying these serious positions in government. If it was not because of the African National Congress, we would not have been earning half of what we are earning today. Most of us. I look at the members of my executive council, I look at myself, I'm saying to myself, if it was not because of the ANC that I'm the premier, ek sou nie die helfte van wat ek gekry het per jaar gekry het. Which is the same with all those MECs and our members of the provincial legislature. Ek en Nurin, we're not going to get half the salary that we are getting, if it was not because of an ANC deployment. So we get what we get because the ANC deployed us and made it possible. But with all these privileges that we get, you've got a driver, you've got bodyguards, you've got an office, you've got all of that. The staff here, you are haze and D and die and die. And when we look at a budget that is meant to build houses for people who are living in informal settlements, ons wil nog steeds steel daar. That's what we do. Ons kyk die begroting 500 miljoen rand om mense te bou vir die arm van die armste. With everything that we have, which basically we would not have had if we were not deployed by the ANC. Ons wil nog steeds daar nog gaan stuur. Hoe ver die story dan? How does this thing work? So we have to discuss means on how to imbue our comrades with revolutionary morality, which is consciousness around against doing wrong things, stealing what is due for our ordinary people to improve their quality of life. That's what we'll have to discuss and seriously discuss. And the other value which is very much important is self-cultivation. All our leaders in the past self-cultivated and even assisted each other to self-cultivate. O.R. Tambo was a scientist, he had a BSc, isn't it? Nelson Mandela told him, go and register and study law. He went and he studied law. He opened one of the first black law firms together. And so self-cultivation is very much important. When these guys went to Robben Island, they continued studying. probably knowing they will never get out of the Robben Island. But they studied. And that is self-cultivation, is to sharpen their understanding of how best to serve communities. That is what self-cultivation is, the value of the movement. That we, at all times, we try to sharpen our understanding. When you get these documents here, it's 13 discussion documents. When you get them here, you've got the privilege of receiving these 13 discussion documents. You go home and you give yourself an opportunity to go through the strategy and tactics of the ANC. Wat beteken die ding, strategy and tactics? Or what does it mean? And you spend time to go through it. Nie stories praat, nie stories lopen praat, engaging with a document, strategy and tactics. Then thereafter you start dealing with all the different policy documents. And if you do that, your input to the life of the movement qualitatively improves. Because each and every one of us here, we are supposed to make an input into the life of the ANC. Not only an input in terms of your membership, but an input in terms of the life of the movement. Make a qualitative input in terms of the life of the movement. Because one of the dangers that we can't commit is to lead an organization that we don't know. Een van die groot dangers that we should not commit, comrades, is to lead an organization that you don't know. You lead the movement from a point of not knowing. Die mense sê, ja, ons ken, is die leer van die ANC, maar die man ken maar nou niks nie. En die Karoo, as ek nou Karoo Afrikaans moet praat, dan sê die man ken nou maar fokol. Dat is hoe ons praat in die Karoo, ek is een kind van die Karoo. En ja, hy is maar een leer. Hy is maar een leer. Maar hy ken fokol. Dat is niks wat hy ken nie. So if we lead the organization from a point of not knowing, we get those encounters. Because as a member of the movement, each and every day, this is a daily struggle. You do a little bit of work to ensure that you improve your understanding of the movement. When you improve your understanding of the organization, your input is better to the life of the organization. Your input is much better. If you don't do work on a daily basis to grapple with these difficult things, to try and better understand the history of the organization, try and understand the history of the organization. But what led to Pixley Kaseme writing the letter, calling on all Africans to unite? What led him to do that? Which led to the establishment of the ANC in 1912. And you don't only leave it there. You ask yourself, but 1912, when these people met at Vryhoek in Bloemfontein on the 8th of January, what was happening there? Who were there? Wie is die mense wat daar was? Ask yourself those questions. Wie is die mense wat daar was? And it's much easier today with the digital age to access this information, isn't it? Wie is die mense wat daar was? You expect the bombers to ask what the ANC Youth League, which was formed in 1944, but why was it formed? What were the events leading to the formation of the ANC Youth League? And after the ANC Youth League, what was their immediate task? And who are these people? Isn't it? You ask yourself then, who are these people who did that? So as soon as you start to ask yourself those questions, this is what we call a self-cultivation. As soon as you start to ask yourself those questions, you look for answers to those questions. You phone other comrades to engage, you ask, man, I'm trying to get a sense of this thing. That's how you actually improve your understanding of the movement. That's how you improve. If you don't do that, you participate on general stuff about the organization. If you don't do that, your participation will be on general stuff. Once at the BGM had and diet Kabakli. The common said the BGM, the owner was Brutnius and I understand and I turn at a beer. Isn't it? Yes, that's what your participation would be. Participation would be very low and general. In general, what happened is take office from the INC to a dark home to Masalida that. And let's just me die and die and die and die. That's your participation. But as soon as you take the responsibility of self-cultivation, your participation becomes deep. That's how your participation is. It's very deep. And everybody looks forward to hear you speaking. That's what happens. Everybody looks forward to hear you speaking. After you've spoken, when people leave, the front guy, hey, for bombas gelested vandaag. Hey, for them gelested. Because your participation is deep. Your participation is grounded. It's ideological. In the dark, when it's dark and nobody can see, you can see deep in the dark and tell them exactly what the future holds. Because your participation is deep and you've got the tools of analyzing the political environment. So when we start with such kinds of inputs, we are inviting comrades to read the strategy and tactics. It can't be that the strategy and tactics becomes a white elephant in the movement. Nobody wants to touch this thing. Our members don't want to touch this thing. They've got a great deal of disinterest in the strategy and tactics of the movement. It can't be like that. You must see and find members of the ANC grappling with this thing. Members of the movement can clearly articulate what a strategy is and say what a tactic is. We can distinguish between the two. That's what we want. If you meet any member of the ANC, Chief, what's the strategy? You should be able to clearly articulate that. It's our long-term objectives of the kind of society we want to build. What's your tactics is our immediate maneuverings on how best to reach that destination. When you ask what is a National Democratic Society, you can clearly articulate it as a minimum program of the movement towards achieving our National Democratic Society. What are the motive forces? Are those who stand to benefit most from our revolution? That's what we expect from an ordinary ANC member. Because you grapple with these things, as soon as you've got a better understanding of them, your input into the life of the movement is much deeper. It's grounded. It's ideological. So we can't run away from this. Treating the strategy and tactics as a white elephant. Hey man, did them for strategy and tactics never was man. Part of our work of cadre development is for us to grapple with these concepts. Understanding is a product of better conceptualization of concepts. You get concepts, and those concepts you must grapple with them, working very hard to understand these concepts. working extremely hard to understand these concepts. And when comrades stand up here and say, hey, comrades, in terms of the dialectical process, dialectical materialism and historical materialism and all of this, and say, dialectics, nonsense. Nonsense. Because what we require in order for us to make a much greater input in this process is deeper understanding. And that deeper understanding, you don't get it for free. Deeper understanding, you come nie verniet nie. It starts in platforms like this. That deeper understanding, it starts in platforms like this, where when things are raised, you've got your notebook. You note these things, you note them, you write them down, you go home, you regurgitate them, you investigate them. Isn't it? A youngster like Bombas who comes to an RGC should be carrying a notebook with a pen and a highlighter. Coming here, hey, this thing was raised, this one was raised, this one was raised. You go back home, you investigate these things. And I would be happy to receive a call from him and saying, but Chair, I heard you speaking about this thing, and this is how you've articulated it. I don't think I agree with you. I don't think I agree with you. So that's where this thing of political interfeeding starts. Ons voed mekaar nou. Isn't it? We feel each other. Ons voed mekaar. So without that, our political life will remain empty. Let me tell you. And when our political life remains empty, it gets then filled by the void of gossips. Ons sal net hier praat van stories. Wie vry met wie en wie wil nie gevry word nie en al die tipe goede en al die en dat. Yes, because our political life, it's empty. Yes, because our political life is empty, completely empty. Dan sal ons goed praat nou wat onnodig is, which has got absolutely nothing to do with the life of the movement, but sal maak dat ons nou onnodig nou begin beklei. Because political life is empty. We can only feel that void of emptiness in our political life when we self-cultivate.